Hi, so what I'm going to be showing you today is how to configure Certdog. So what we have here is a fresh install, nothing else has been done. This is on a Windows Server 2019 machine. So once we have installed Certdog, by default it will just be on the local host. So we go to this HTTPS 127.0.0.1 address. Okay, now after install, you'll get an error or warning like this, and that is because the certificate that by default Certdog is installed with, which you can replace after install, is not trusted. So to get around that issue quickly, what we're going to do is go into our Certdog installation. For me, it's just installed directly on the C drive, and we're going to go into config, SSL certificates there, and there's a root certificate here, and this is all in the install guide. And for now, all we're going to do is just install this into the trusted root certificate authority store. Okay, now let's restart the browser. Go to the same location, and here's all's good. Okay, so during install, you create the initial administrator account, and this is the one I created, and this is the one that you will log on initially, just as I'm doing here. Now once logged on, there are no certificates, nothing has been configured, and what we're going to do now is generate a CA hierarchy, that's a root, and an intermediate CA, a TLS profile, and then we're going to issue a TLS certificate. Okay, so Certdog supports internal CAs known as local CAs, as well as Microsoft and EJB CA. So what we're going to do here is concentrate on the local CAs. Now, before we can create a local CA, and that's all managed on the left here under local CAs, we need to create a key store, and this is where the CA's keys will be held. Okay, so we click on here and we're going to click on add new key store. Now our options are software, PKCS11, so this is an HSM that supports the PKCS11 interface, Google KMS, and Azure Key Vault. And for this demo, we're just going to create a software key store. And I'm just going to give it a name and a password. And this is the password that will be protecting this key store. Okay, now we have a key store, we can create a CA. So I've clicked on CA configuration, I'm going to add new CA, and I'm going to give this a name. So this is, I'm just going to call this root CA. My key store selected. I want to create a root CA. I'm going to give it a name, a distinguished name. So CA. I'm going to give it a reasonable lifetime. Keep the algorithm at RSA. I'm going to give it a 4096-bit key size. Keep the algorithm at SHA-2. No path length constraint, and I'm not going to add any policies, but if I wanted to, I can add them here, enter my details and add as many or remove them as required. I'm going to generate CRLs. I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. If this was an offline route, then of course you'd have much longer CRL lifetimes. You'd have to manually go and extract them from the offline route. But in this case, we're just going to put it all in one place. Going to click create. And there we go. And there's our root CA. Okay. Now we can edit some of the details around the CA. We cannot edit any of the details that are contained within the CA certificate, such as the DN, the algorithm, policies if we had any, but we can alter the how often CRLs are generated, what the distribution point is, and this distribution point is what will be added to the certificates this CA will issue. I'm going to add an issuing CA. Same key store, I could use another. I use the same one. This is going to be an intermediate CA. And now I have the options. I want to issue from a local CA. I could also just generate a CR, have that processed by an external CA. And the issuer of this CA is going to be the root CA we just created. Okay, and that's the only one we have in a minute. If you have several, you can create from any. You can create hierarchies with the path length as long as you like. And I'm going to give this the distinguished name of issuing CA organization. Let's leave that as Certdog as well. And I'm going to give this, keep it as a 1 year lifetime. And I'm going to, I'm just going to leave all these at the defaults. Okay, but I am going to also generate CRLs for this CA. Okay, and we'll see that they'll be available at this address shortly. And I'm going to create that. And that's created, okay. So if we have a quick look, here we are. This is our intermediate CA. Let's have a look at the certificate. Here we are. And we can actually view that certificate in Windows. So let's just have a look. Okay, so we've got some errors here, and that is because the root CA that we created, that certificate, is not trusted, but we can sort that out in a minute. But what you'll see is that this was the issuing CA issued by the root CA. So the subject of this certificate was what we just entered, issuing CA, and the issuer was the one we created initially, root CA. And we have all the other information, CRL distribution point. So this CRL distribution point, that is the CRL distribution point we configured on the root CA. And we can change that and then issue another CA certificate, and that will be added into this certificate as well. Okay, so let's not worry about the trust on this machine for now. What we're going to do next is create a profile. Okay, so a profile is it's similar to a template in the Microsoft CA world. It defines what will go into a certificate when it's issued. So I'm going to click on, I've clicked on profiles. I'm going to click on add new profile, and I'm going to create a TLS profile. And I'm going to leave that at, let's say, 30 days. Now, if you know what your key usages you want or enhanced key usages, you can just select them here, and those will be added into the certificates based on this profile. But there are some helpers here. So we want just a straightforward TLS server authentication only profile, and that will automatically select the correct usages. We can, of course, just add additional ones if we needed to, but these are just helpers to configure the standard key usages and enhanced key usages. Again, I could add policies if we wanted the policies to be added to certificates that will be issued from this profile. So I'm going to click add, and we now have this profile here. Now we have a CA, we have two CAs, and we have a profile. Now we need to join them together, okay, to make an issuer. And an issuer is just in the same way when you request a certificate from a Microsoft CA, you specify the CA and the template. With internal CAs in Certdog, local CAs, you specify the CA and the profile. Okay, so what we're going to do is add a new issuer, and we're going to select local CA. And we're going to give this TLS 30-day issuer. And I want to issue these certificates from the issuing CA using the TLS profile, and everyone in the admin team, which is the only team we have set up initially, will be able to request certificates from this issuer. And I'm going to click add. So we would, at this point, if we had a CSR, be able to come here, upload a CSR and request a certificate. But what we'd like to do for this demo is for Certdog to also create the CSR for us. So if we click on DN request, that's where we do that, but you'll see that there's an error here. There's no CSR generator. To generate a CSR generator, all we need to do is click on CSR generators and click new, give it a name. I'm going to call it RSA 2048 generator. So I'm going to leave the algorithm RSA 2048. I'm going to leave it at shard 256. And I'm going to add that. Then when we come back to request based on the DN, the distinguished name, there's no more error, and we should be able to now request a certificate. I can enter my DN directly, just as CN equals server, etc. Or I can click this down arrow and enter the components separately. So I can enter server.1. And if I check this here, it will automatically add that as a DNS subject alternative name. And you'll see at the top here, it's building the DN for us. Okay, so all the others are at their defaults. It's a 30-day issuer. The generator is the RSA 2048-bit generator, so that will generate our CSR for us, and this is going to be associated with the admin team. I can add additional subject alternative names. Remember, this one up here is going to be included by default, but if I wanted to add an additional one, what I need to do is add it here and click add, and if I wanted to remove it, I'd click remove. Now this is going to generate a P12 PFX, and it can also be downloaded as a Java key store file or PEM files, including the private key. So we're going to need a password for this to protect this file, and I'm going to request the certificate, and there we go, the certificate has been issued. I can download that certificate. Okay, so the subject is as we specified, and the issuer is the issuing CA, and key usage and enhanced key usage are as specified in the profile. We can also download as a P12, and if I were to open that, I could go through the import process and import it into my local store. Okay. If I click more, there are additional details on this certificate. Now, if I download under download options, I can download the certificate, the issuer, the chain, the CSR, etc. But I cannot download the P12, the PFX file again. Okay, and that is because I haven't updated the settings to allow that. So we can change that on the left hand side under settings, and then click settings. This is the key item here. Private key retention period. No days means the private keys will not be retained in the system for any time. So except for immediately after issuance, where you can download it as I did then, they won't be retained. So if we wanted to retain those keys for, I don't know, say 7 days, I can update this value as so. Okay, so update that. There we go. Now if I come back and let's issue the same certificate again. Well, actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. Go back to certificates. Our certificate is here. And if I click on more, what I can do here is under actions, I can renew this certificate. Okay, so that will save me re-entering all the details. And if I provide a password this time and I click renew, it has renewed it. And if I click on more, you'll see now it says it's renewed the certificate. But in addition to that, because we changed that setting, I'm now able to download the PKCS12 or PFX again as a Java key store and PEM. So I could click these and then download items there. If we do click on this certificate that we just renewed here, we'll notice that its status is no longer monitored. And monitored is monitoring for the expiry of the certificate. And we'll go into all those notifications in another video. So that is it for issuing a certificate using an internal CA. It doesn't take very long to set up. You'll be able to come in via this user interface and request certificates. You can also request certificates via the REST API. We'll talk about that in another video. But one last thing to mention is that if you ever get stuck, bottom right-hand corner, there's a link to the documentation. Okay, click on that. And the easiest way to navigate here is to just search for what you want to do. Okay, so create a local certificate issuer, one of the items we did here. It will go through that process we just did, essentially, adding a new CA. You want to look up about profiles. Here we go, create a local certificate profile, and on and on. And if we come back here, this API link there will take you to the page where you can browse through all the API calls that we have here. And these are all the API calls that you can make to Certdog for things like automation or integration with other systems. Okay, thank you. Our next video will show how to interface with Microsoft CA.